I'm talking mainly on the MMR one, which is the triple vaccine, to a 1-year-old or 1.5-year-old child. The toxicity in those 3 combined vaccinations is too much.
I think the thing is, we need to know exactly what's in there before we inject it into our bodies.
Yeah, I mean, the immune system's not built.
And especially the children. I mean, they've got no way of knowing what's being done to them.
In the States and in here, that's why the increase in autism is like hundreds of %, you know, and the other follow-up stuff.
Well, there is some doubt about the link to autism, but I would say, you know, we need to be cautious, and certainly the way Dr. I would suggest listeners look up Dr. Wakefield on YouTube or something and have a look at it, because you're not going to see him on the television.
And you
won't
completely
wiped him out.
Exactly.
Okay, so also the UN, that's a big one, isn't it? Because that should be helping the world go towards peace. Now, I can remember back in the early 1990s, we had something called perestroika, and there was going to be the peace dividend. Everything was going to chill out. We didn't have to have a Cold War with Russia again. Literally just in the last few weeks. Exactly. It's all ramping up again, isn't it? NATO doing exercises in Ukraine, even though it's not part of NATO. And Russia moving troops up to the border. The referendum in Crimea. It's all starting to hot up all over the Black Sea Fleet, because the Russian Black Sea Fleet is very powerful in the Middle East. It goes down into the Middle East and it can tip the balance in the Mediterranean, as it did last summer over Syria, shooting down 2 cruise missiles that were heading for Damascus. So
it's a very tender time to be in that. I mean,
but are the UN actually going to do the job, Steve?
I don't think so. I just think that my personal opinion is they're on the other side. They want this.
You know what? You just reminded me of something. In Haiti, weren't they responsible for spreading cholera?
Exactly.
And then that none of the officials at the UN would actually answer for this. No. This strain of cholera that appeared was tied directly to the UN, and it was released by them in Haiti. This is appalling. These people, who is inside the UN, who is controlling it?
Well, every nation signs up to it, but what it is now, they seem to be running everything. This is the problem.
Really?
With Agenda 21.
Okay, that's a UN thing. What is Agenda 21?
Well, basically, it's a whole list of things they're coming up with. And they're seizing land and saying, we're taking this land for to keep the natural resources and whatever. And they're buying it, and they're buying up stocks in land, stuff that should be a sovereign country should take care of, you know. But they're going into every facet, health, the whole thing, you know, which is quite worrying. And where's it going to end? Where's it going to stop? Who are they accountable for?
This is Central Control Command Agency, broadcasting from the year 2025 by the use of dimensional time frequency transmission. People, you must prepare yourself for a nuclear exchange on U.S. soil anytime now. This is a false flag. It's important you remove yourself from populated cities, prepare food, stock, and water emergency medical kits. Bush administration and the Obama administration have already been charged with crimes against humanity, funding and causing terror attacks across the world for many years. All globalist assets have been frozen, buildings closed. The United Nations has been dismantled and placed in a neutral country. Segments of the British and US Army will aid your groups under the Central Control Command Agency. Wait for further instructions. Good luck.
Well, that was great, Steve.
Where did that come from? We interrupted them.
That sounded a bit like you. Now, I was getting a little bit worried at the start there, but it was pretty clear straight away that it's a bit of a spoof. But, you're talking about some interesting little, but also some puzzling terms there. The false flag, what's that about?
A false flag, basically, when a country creates a seemingly terror attack, but created by themselves in order to go into a war which they already pre-planned.
Right, so they're blaming it on somebody else, basically. So if someone blows up a bomb and points the finger at someone else saying, it was him.
It was him, and there's a history of this.
That is like a bit of psychopath behaviour, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And that is what we're dealing with when we're dealing with the elite, the power elite. We're dealing with...
it's like self-harming, isn't it? Isn't that a similar thing? For one person to do it, it's like, well, you start stabbing yourself and you're saying, oh, look what someone's done.
It's very difficult for people to understand because we all suffer from what we call normacy bias, where if it affects our world, we just reject it straight away. Unless you research and do more research, listen to credible people, scientists and professors.
On the BBC?
Yes. Well, sometimes. Yeah, PhDs, people who are talking the truth, it's easy to...
But the thing is, there's lots and lots of people that come across as very convincing who actually are just part of this globalist system. I mean, what are the globalists?
The globalists are basically have an agenda, and it's quite worrying, really. But I'm joining the dots because of the research I'm doing, and a lot of it includes depopulation. Horrific stuff, via food, toxins.
So you're saying that this is not just to make money, it's also somehow deliberate?
It's something deliberate. They call people who are not part of any establishment or not knowing worthless eaters. I think it's concocted by Lord Russell, I think. Worthless eaters. You're not worth anything. You're just wasting our time, and we're best to depopulate. That's kind of a Malthusian way of thinking,
The Malthusians, that's a good word, isn't it? Who are they?
Oh, that's who are in charge of us at the moment, and that way of thinking,
Malthus, I think it was, that came up with that. Okay, so also, you mentioned briefly the universities, but, let's try and bring it down to home here in Bristol a bit. Yeah. The people that own and run Bristol are not the politicians, it's the merchant venturers, isn't it?
Yes.
I think it is.
Yeah.
You look at them; they have got massive investments in all these big investment banks. The ones that are also, some of them are, of course, crooked banks like HSBC. I'm not sure the merchants are invested in them, but you know what I mean. There's this whole financial sector which just sees it as owning the planet, and it thinks, well, okay, so now we own the planet. What shall we do with it? It's all ours, so we can decide, and almost don't take a lot of notice of what ordinary people want.
No.
One of the scariest things about all this is, I suppose, is the food toxins. But at least we can look at the labels, can't we? And
we can
discern what's in it and what's not.
Though, it really is quite.
What also occurs to me is water, lovely and pure, beautiful. One thing that we can rely on. Hang on, fracking.
Oh, I just attended a seminar with Ian Crane. He's worth getting him on here. He's brilliant. He's a BP...
Because he was an ex-oil worker, wasn't he?
Ex-oil worker, and he went through the whole thing. And it is bad. In Australia...
isn't it the idea that to basically deny the natural resources to a population who are disaffected and out in the countryside or whatever, that you can't even drink the water?
No.
You're going to die.
There was a farm in Australia where they drilled the well, drilled across, they drilled down and then across.
Just a minute. It's just occurring to me this water industry. It's just treating water like any other industry. It's trying to create scarcity. So it says, well, we will control the pure water. We don't want anyone else having any other access to pure water. They're going to have to come to us to buy it from us. Water is absolutely the basis, probably along with sunlight, of our lives.
Yep.
So anyway, carry on. I interrupted you there.
Oh, no, that's fine. I was talking about a farm in Australia where they fracking, they drill down and then they start going across and then putting chemicals, and they won't list the chemicals that they use, but basically, and it fracks the rocks below, releasing the gas oils. But the toxicity within the area, there was a farm, they were pumping out water, it lit a match, and then you had flames coming out.
Well, it's just poisoning the earth. What they're doing is poisoning the earth. Now, this is the same big oil companies that really have been running humanity probably for the past 200 years, that are financed by the Rothschilds. They are the Rockefellers, because the Rockefellers haven't given up their oil interests. When Standard Oil was broken up, the monopoly in the US in the early 1900s, all that happened was it was broken up into smaller pieces that the Rockefeller family, most of which still owned, and they still have a massive interest in almost all the big oil. Particularly Exxon. There are several others, Marathon Oil, for example. They're big guys in this. The Rothschilds helped finance the setting up of Shell Oil. So, in a way, this is the same people who were doing the oil exploitation in the 1800s and early 1900s are now trying to poison the planet to get a bit of energy out.
If they get away with it, the government has so much opposition.
They're cheeky, aren't they? They're very cheeky.
I don't know. It's crazy. Even, the damage it's doing. It's all there. The evidence is there for you. Proper BP construction or construction, are telling you it's bad. The opposition for it's tremendous, and people campaigning outside, writing to governments. Some governments have banned it, which is great. It's a great step forward. But they should not get away with this. No, definitely.
Well, luckily we've still got democracy here in Bristol, and a former merchant venturer is now running the city. His name is George Ferguson. He left the merchant venturers when he became mayor, but then as mayor he still gets invited to all the merchant venturers' nice lunches and things up the promenade where they're based, and you can actually visit the promenade from time to time. I suggest people get clued up on the merchant venturers because they are the power behind the scene. They have a very good public image with looking after the downs and all this kind of thing, but actually behind the scenes, look where their money is, look what they're investing in, and also look at what great deal of interest they take in the politics of the city. Anyway, Steve, you also, I know you looked up recently something called The Future Is Now.
Yes.
This is very up-to-date, and it's from NASA. Now, I thought NASA had died off pretty much with the Apollo space program, but they're not. They're still around.
Well, this is... I see... pulled the document up. I thought there's nothing serious with it, but it's talking about the future strategy, the future warfare, and oddly enough, in 2025. And some of the stuff they're talking about is unbelievable.
2025?
Yeah.
Okay, just give us an example of something that...
The weapons that will be used in the future war is not going to be your nuclear war. This is all ancient stuff. This is stuff like mechanical biomicrobes. You've got mechanical dust, which is distributed by aerosol, inhaled into the lungs. The dust mechanically bores into the lung tissues, executes various pathological missions. It's got wholly new class of weaponry, and at the bottom, which is totally legal. I mean, this is page after page. I mean, if you think...
Well, we've already got things like microflies, these pretend robotic flies that can buzz around, used for surveillance and to actually attack people, for goodness sake. There's loads of this kind of... We've got the drone surveillance, drones hovering over our homes, drones flying around in clusters, which are actually talking to each other and then deciding what to do. I mean, we've hit a sort of... 2001 Space Odyssey, Stanley Kubrick moment where the technology is starting to go way out of control, Steve.
And they're really into this robotic stuff, a transhumanistic way of doing things.
Okay, what's a transhumanist?
Well, basically merging man with machine. They're obsessed with this, and those who are not part of it. I mean, the viral chip is only one small step. A viral chip inserted into you. Then you want to do brain mapping stuff.
And the RFID
chips.
Now, these are little chips which are able to communicate with... You might see them on some products. Yeah. For example, when you're taking it out of a supermarket, it goes blip, and that could be an RFID chip. Yep. They've got RFID chips in all these contactless payment cards now that we've been given no choice about whether we're going to have. In fact, I complained to the banking ombudsman, and they said, guess what? Nothing. No, nothing you can do. You just got to have it. Well, the banking ombudsman's useless in my opinion, certainly by that experience. Anyway, Steve, your thing is the Unassimilated Research Group on Facebook. Yeah. And that's one thing, that's just a Facebook group. But I know you've done a book too, we mentioned briefly last time. Yeah. The book is called... Secret Prophecy, and we're about to put it out on paperback, a smaller version. Great. And so just to remind folks, it's A Secret Prophecy is the book. It's Steve Lacey, Steve Lacey, if you're interested. And it comes straight to the link then to the page. And also, Steve is also on Facebook, if you're on there. Yeah. You can have a look too, on Unassimilated Research Group. And you spell unassimilated, as you'd actually probably hope, but with two S's. Unassimilated Research Group. Steve Lacey, thanks ever so much for joining us again. Thank you for having me. Thank you. You're listening to dialectradio.co.uk.